work energy example problem. So here's the problem. I have the moon, that's my moon right there, and I have a half-kilogram object that's 12 kilometers above the surface. Drop it. How fast is it going right before it hits the ground? Okay, so first of all, why is this a work energy problem? Well, the problem is that we have this force acting on the block, the dropped rock. It's a rock, but we've seen that the gravitational force, the magnitude looks like this. So r is the distance from the center of the moon to the object, but as the object falls, r changes. So since r changes, we can't just say, oh, it's a constant force. We don't know how to deal with the problem in algebraic physics unless we use the work energy principle. So in the work energy principle, all we care about, we don't care about time, we only care about change in position. And that's exactly what I have here. Position 1, velocity 1. Position 2, velocity 2. Okay, and I've already put some stuff over here we're going to need some values for the radius of the moon, the mass of the moon, the gravitational constant. Let's go ahead and define our system. If we do the work energy problem, which says work is the change in energy, we need to find out what interactions do work on our system and what kinds of energy our system has. So we have to pick a system. In this case, I'm going to pick the system of the rock plus the moon. Now, why would I do that? Because suppose I just had the rock as my system. Well, there is an interaction external to that system, and that's the gravitational force. But again, we get to that same problem. As the rock moves, the force changes, and it's really difficult to find the work, and in fact, impossible in algebra-based physics. If I include both the rock and the moon, then I can incorporate that interaction as a gravitational potential energy. So if that's the case, I will have the gravitational potential energy, U, which looks like this, negative G, mass of the moon, mass of the rock over R. So I gave that before. That's the gravitational potential energy. Mass of the moon, mass of the rock, and the distance between their centers, which changes. So U changes. We're also going to have kinetic energy, 1/2 mv squared, and that's just going to be the velocity of the rock. So that's wrong, but it's only kind of wrong. It's wrong because technically, as the rock falls towards the moon will move too. But that makes it a more complicated problem. So the moon doesn't really move. It's so much more massive, we can assume it doesn't move. Okay. Now, in that system of the rock and the moon right here, there's no other interaction, so we don't have the work done is 0. So that's important too. So now our work energy equation looks like this. Move that. Work is 0, and it's going to be the change in kinetic energy plus the change in gravitational potential energy. Well, let's just start putting in our things here. So this is going to be equal to K2 minus K1, that's the change in kinetic energy, plus U2 minus U1. Now, are any of these values 0? And you may say, well, hey, look, at the end it ends up on the surface of the moon, so the final potential is 0, and it's not. It's not because r is not 0. R is the radius of the moon there. Okay, so let's call this starting height h, and then this is r, the radius of the moon. Now what is 0 is my initial velocity. So let's write this as 0 for my total work. The final kinetic energy, 1/2 mv2 squared, minus 0, because the initial kinetic energy is 0, it starts from rest. Now U2 is going to be the potential energy right here. So it's going to be minus G, the mass of the moon, which I'm going to use a capital M, mass of the rock, divided by the distance between them, which is just capital R, the radius of the moon. And then minus a negative, right? So I get plus G, mass of the moon, mass, over R plus H. So it starts, that's how far away it is. Now, what do I want to solve here? I want to solve for that. Okay. So I know the mass, I know G, I know that mass, I know everything. So all I have to do is solve for that equation. So let's do that up here so we have a little bit more room. So I can move this stuff to the other side. I get 1/2 mv squared equals, add that to both sides. And I'm going to I'm going to factor out something just to make it a little bit easier, equals GMM, right? That's factored out. And then I have 1 over R minus 1 over R plus H. Notice that 1 over R is going to be a bigger number than 1 over R plus H. So this thing is going to be positive. That's important. If it wasn't positive, when I try to solve for the velocity by taking the square root, you would have a big problem. Next, notice, and I'll do it in orange, the mass cancels. Actually, it doesn't really matter what the mass of the rock is. Okay? And the nice thing about the moon is there's no air on the moon, so that we don't even have to worry about that assumption. It's not even an assumption. There is no air resistance. We don't have to worry about that. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 and take the square root, and I get V equals the square root of 2gm 1 over R minus 1 over R plus H. Okay, now we have a good opportunity to practice with our calculator, because I think that people will enter this in wrong, because it happens. So I'm going to say V, I'm going to put in my numbers without units. The square root of 2 times 6.67 times 10 to the negative 11th, right, that's G. The mass of the moon, I put it up here. You can look it up too. 7.35 times 10 to the 22. And then I'm going to have to multiply that by 1 over 1.74 times 10 to the 6th minus 1 over 1.74 times 10 to the 6th plus 12 kilometers. So it's going to be plus 12 times 10 to the 3rd. So that's a mess, right? And this whole thing is square rooted. So you need to be able to do this in your calculator, and you can easily make a mistake. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to use this one. This uses, it's an older calculator, but it uses RPN notation. So if I do things that seem weird, that's why it's RPN notation. I'm just going to start right here and enter 2. Now I'm going to enter this number, 6. Oh, I left off the 7. 6.67. 6.67 times 10 to the negative 11th. I'm going to multiply that times. Now I'm going to multiply it by this, 7.35 times 10 to the 22. And make sure you use your scientific notation button. That can get you in a lot of trouble if you do times 10 raised to the 22. Because if you use a scientific notation button, it includes that as all just one number. You don't have to worry about order of operations there. Okay, so I have this, 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 this. Now I'm going to do this. So I'm going to enter this number, 1.74 times 10 to the 6th, enter. Now I'm going to take 1 over that. Okay, now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to add those two numbers. So 1.74 times 10 to the 6th, enter, plus 12 times 10 to the 3rd, plus. And now I'm going to take 1 over that. And now I'm going to subtract those two. And now I'm going to multiply by that. Now I'm going to take the square root. And I get my final answer. 196.5 meters per second. Okay, now just for fun, I'm going to let you do this on your own. What if we used the gravitational field on the surface of the moon, G is 1.67, I think it is, newtons per kilogram, and just assumed it was constant? Well, it's not constant, okay? But if it was constant and I let it go up here, it would have a larger change in gravitational potential energy. We could use this one, U is mgy. And so here you would have y is equal to 0, here y is equal to 12, but you're assuming a different potential energy function, and you should have a faster speed than that. But you can do that on your own. That's the right answer. The end. Talk to you later. Bye.